Hi everyone, welcome to MCKL FutureEd Series. If you're there, feel free to drop your name and where you are from in the chat so we know who you are. Anyways, hi everyone again and welcome to MCKL FutureEd Series. My name is Ms Beh and I am the Career Services Coordinator at Methodist College Kuala Lumpur. I'll be your host today and I'm pleased to welcome our speaker as well, Mr. Jason Lim, who is the founder and CEO of Cydentiq Sendirian. He has 15 years of expertise in the information technology industry and identity security domain as well. He's an all-round entrepreneur across different dimensions, such as technology, strategic consulting, leadership, service delivery, and business development. He's highly passionate and specialized in the domains of identity security, which is what he'll be sharing with us today. He's also known as a subject matter expert of privileged access management, which we probably will hear about today as well. He has been providing extensive advisory service in the financial services industry. You can see his full speaker profile when you sign up for talk. And you would realize that he's an active public speaker and has been invited by known organizers such as the EC Council, the ISACA Malaysia Chapter, and Malaysia Institute of Accountants. And he often speaks in university actually to speak about cybersecurity and technology conferences. Apart from that, Mr. Jason here was also interviewed and featured by CISO Mag, which is a magazine, international magazine, cybersecurity. So if you're here, don't be afraid to say hi to Mr. Jason and myself, because we are looking forward to hear where you're coming from and also talk to you more about cybersecurity. Now, before I invite Mr. Jason up to speak, just a quick note. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A section on the screen. I know some of you here are from the computing club in Methodist College Kuala Lumpur, so feel free also to say hi and to put down any of your questions. We will address all these questions at the end of our session. So yeah, without further ado, let me welcome Mr. Jason Lim to share with us a bit more. Mr. Jason.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Great to meet you guys here. Let me just put up my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can, Mr. Jason.
Okay, thanks for having me here today. So what I'm going to do today is basically to walk you guys through about, when we talk about cybersecurity, we have witnessed how cybersecurity has been evolving tremendously these years, be it from a horizontal perspective or vertical perspective. We have seen the entire landscape has been keep on changing and evolving. And nevertheless, that from our perspective, we think that and we feel that identity security play a very important role in today's cybersecurity landscape. This is what I'm going to share with you today. So keep your questions in the chat box that I will be able to answer you later on. Okay, before we go further, right, let's think about what is identity security is about. Now, identity security, how we define is basically a cybersecurity strategy and framework that incorporate people, process, technologies to ensure that the right people having the right access to the right data at the right time and doing the right thing for the right reason. This is all about identity security. Let me ask the questions, right? These are general questions, right? In your opinion, what do you think and that for big corporate, how do they manage, especially those big corporate, they're having thousands of users, how do they managing the identity and access every single day? Anyone? Anyone would like to try on this? Now imagine there's a big corporate that is having thousands of users, which require them to manage, right? So you will see that, it's going to be very messy, and it's going to be a lot of hassles, especially when they do not have a right system or right process in place, right? You're going to use a lot of manual ways when someone come on board, joining a new organizations. From that moment, how do you grant the access to this group of users? How do you grant the right access? Because you're not supposed to grant anything that's additional given to the users, right? And along the whole journeys, the user access may get changed, right? Like you changing your department, how are you going to manage all these things? And then the last but not least, when you leave the organization, how does the organization ensures that the access are being remediated or being disabled or deleted right away from your last day, right? So these are the day-to-day administration that all these big corporate like banks, insurance, telco industry, they have to face, right? And needless to say that they are having bounded with a lot of compliance standard where they're required to meet. Okay, so this is today that we're going to share with you that what are the typical solutions that we can offer to help this group of customers, especially those big corporate, thousands of users, solving all these problems. Okay, let's take a quick look about for those big corporate, how do they protect their data? Typically, they will be putting all their endpoints, their server, networks, applications, or database on-prem, on the on-premise manner, right? And then they'll start putting around the firewalls, antivirus to protect the data, right? But this is a very traditional approach, and we typically see that this approach doesn't work anymore. Building the firewall high enough is just not good enough, right? Especially when we look at the whole landscape of pushing down from digital transformation and the pandemic that we have went through for 2 years time already, right? And people start to work from home, right? So how do you ensure that you can still manage the people in terms of the access, and but they are actually connecting from the outside the network. Okay. So therefore we can see that traditionally employees, internet employees used to come to work in the office, right? You can see them face to face, right? But today they are working remotely. How do you ensure that these employees carrying out the right identities when they are logging into your network, right? So these are the big questions that organization will need to think of. I still remember a lot of my customers came to me during when we start the lockdown, the first ever in our history in March 2020, right? There's a lot of security folks that came to me and said, hey, Jason, how do you protect? Now my employees need to work from home. How do we grant the secure access to them? They are not allowed to come to office anymore, right? Things change very fast. And we see that cybersecurity strategy need to in place fast enough, to catch up the technology and the trend that we're having today, right? So including another element that we look at it is on the application. We also start to see a lot of organizations start putting application on the cloud instead of hosting internally, right? Because they can save costs, make the entire easy much more accessible by anyone that they can log in from anywhere, right? And more importantly, we can see the adoption of using mobile devices to the application that has been heavily rise, right? So you're not just using your desktop or your workstation to access the data anymore. We are using mobile device typically. Okay, and there are companies that also will be going for hybrid cloud as well, right? So it's going to be there to stay for long. And for organizations that adopting BYOD, you may heard of it. What is BYOD? Bring your own devices. That means your device, you bring your own devices to come to work. You are not using the company asset. Now, in this case, right, how do we know that your devices are always in a healthy state before I allow you to connect to my network, right? So that's another topic that we will need to discuss on it. And lastly, we think that vendors and contractors, last time you asked them to come to your office to service and to do certain maintenance, right? Now you have no choice. You have to, get them to come in remotely. So with all these landscape change, right, how we see the futures of parameter, he has to come from identity. Therefore, we believe identity form a new base of parameter to secure the entire company network. Okay, this is very, very important because now everyone can access from anywhere, anytime, using any devices, right? So identity is the only parameter now can define that who is the right people that's coming into my network, right? Let's quickly look at the typical cyber queue change that could happen, right? When we talk about privilege access. In privilege access here, the context here means that we are referring to the administrator access, right? Now we have two dimensions that to look into, whether is it the external or internal, right? We have two dimensions to look into. So typically, once you actually pass through the network parameter, you would have threat actors that come from externally, or they are the so-called trusted insider. Typically, is your employees, right, working in the organization. These are called so-called the trusted insiders. So the moment that they gain access or expand the access, so for the external attackers to come in, right, they typically will be using all kinds of, they like to use the social engineering phishing techniques that's available. So today, social engineering techniques has gone with so sophisticated, right? You can have many ways for you to exploit the access to come into the network, right? So the moment that you come into the network, what do they do? It depends on their motive. Rightfully, they would like to find a privilege that is the highest that will be allow them to go into the system or access to the sensitive data. So they will sift around, performing a lateral movement in a network. They may not just exploit the system in a 1 day or 1 week. They will just sneak around and looking for the opportunity to escalate their privilege to the highest one, right? Once they found out this golden ticket, what they will do is that they will escalate a privilege, and depending on their motive, they could actually create damage to your organization and your business. Okay, so they could easily exploit the data, and some of them can even actually cover up their footprint, right? Without they can take data without putting any path of it to trace on, right? So it is very dangerous. Now think about the questions: how could all these things happen in an organization? The trend that we see that is typically we see that poor or very simple passwords are being used in place, or the worst is like people are using a default password when the system that is deployed ABC123 password has been used and never get changed over the years. So these are the areas of the system that I could potentially exploit very easily, because these are all passwords in my dictionary by default. And the other areas that we look into is the compromised credential, that you often heard that the stolen password or username and email address that was being sold on the dark web, right? So these are the compromised credential that attackers already got hold to it. Or social engineering techniques, gaining access to the shared accounts. So if today you are sharing accounts with your friend, these are what we call shared accounts. So what is the problem of shared accounts? It's always go back to the accountability problem, right? When things happen, you will not able to pinpoint who is the actual person that is conducting these activities. Domain administrator privilege. Of course, if you walk into an organization, the moment that they say, hey, Jason, I have a domain administrator privilege, then basically you are the king of the entire network, because you can hoop around the entire network without having to have any additional access, all right? And lastly, we talk about the lack of visibility, right? Basically, there's no monitoring tool in place, and the access control principle is actually quite poorly managed as well. Everyone looks like having a full access. There's no segregated access, or there's no restricted access control that's put in place. Okay, let's take a quick look about this true incident, right? So this guy is called Anthony. So Anthony was a former Google engineer. So what happened is that he was responsible to drive this autonomous car program. So therefore, because of his roles and responsibility in this project, he could access to all the the design for all this autonomous car that is happening around Google during the time. And just before he left, he decided to steal all this information, all these design files, right? Few thousands of design files was get stolen, and he go and false concept, right? I'm going to push the market, right? So he was looking and sell it to Uber, and Uber bought his company 6 months later. And right after that, when Uber's trying to launch that program, and Google already noticed this and tried to sue Uber already. Yeah, you're stealing my IP, intellectual property, right? Now, the incident that we learn to learn from here is that Anthony is not a profile person. He's not a manager. He's not even a manager or people. He's just an engineer. So just because of it, the access that's given to him, and if he decided to manipulate the access that's granted to him and do something else illegally, now in this case, how do you know? As a company, how do I ensure that that I will be able to detect this incident much earlier? Because human behavior tend to change along the way, right? So from what we see here, the trend is that human is #1 factor in cybersecurity. Therefore, that is also one of my passions and my team passions, that every day we are dealing into how to basically protecting the company data from the human-driven perspective, right? That's why we are in identity access management domain. Okay, now how do we manage and secure the user access in this one? So to paint a better picture and to ease the understanding for everyone here, what I would like to relate is maybe I take MCKL as as one example. So we're going to build an IM system here, right? And start talking to your HR system. So imagine every single semester that MCKL has, you are enrolling a new students to come on board, right? So your system, your HR system will be containing the all the sources of all the new students record. So this is where that they will actually give pass the feeds to IM system that we are going to implement, right? So our system will be able to know that who's actually come on board on what is onboarding date, what is the start date, what is the role, what is what is the course that the student is enrolling, things like that. So everything will come into IM system, and we will start integrating to your email. We'll start integrating to your student management system, your learning modules, system A, system B, and so on and so forth, right? And we'll also be integrating to your file and folder perspective, right? Let's say if you are using a SharePoint, you're using a OneDrive, these are the places that we'll be integrating, right? Now, what's going to happen? Imagine that Alex is joining as a new student, right? Semester 1, year 1, right? Now, when he come on board, then our system will be intelligent enough to know that, hey, this guy is actually enrolling IT courses, and this is a year 1, semester 1 subject. Now, based on this profile, that our system will grant the so-called birthright access to the user before even asking Alex to basically request for the access. How nice is that, right? This is done automatically by our system. By knowing your profile, we are able to automatically provision your Alex user account into a respective system by default without Alex asking for it. So day 1, when he come on board, the access is already getting ready for him, right? Then as we move along, we also provide a workflow. If let's say Alex is required, part of his project, he required to access to certain module, that he can actually come into this system to request. And once it's approved, our system will basically grant the access, and the student can actually log in directly to the system, right? So without requesting for any access. So I see there's a person that's raising here. You want to ask question? Or if you prefer to keep your questions at the end of session, please feel free to ask me after this, right? So once it's approved, that the access will be automatically granted to Alex, and Alex can log into that particular system, all right, without knowing what is the password of the system. That's how we solve the importance of password security in today's context. And needless to say that if let's say Alex today decided, he has to actually access to certain sensitive data, now we say that yes, we allow you to do so, right? But we want you to go through a more stringent access control that we are going to put in place, right? So you need to go through a multi-factor authentication, something that something that you are, multi-factor authentication. Once you authenticate correctly, that we will be able to identify your true identities, because in digital world, if I know Alex password, I can be Alex at any point of time, right? In the digital world, how do you know that I'm not an Alex? Am I a true Alex or am I a false Alex? You wouldn't know in digital world, right? So it's through adaptive authentications that we are implementing that we're able to understand who is actually coming to the network. Now I say that you go ahead, you can access your sensitive data because this is already approved, right? Not only that, we are allowed to plant in so-called like a CCTV, like a video that is recording every single user activity that you are conducting while you're accessing the servers or getting out the sensitive data, right? So it's like a video recording, shooting down every single command that you type, every file that you download, you upload, everything will get recorded. And imagine someone can actually remotely play back your sections live. It's like a live streaming. I can watching you to do what are you doing every single steps, right? So if you try to actually take the data out from organization, I have an alarm that is waiting to catch you, right? I can alarm and I can send alert, I can notify a security team that someone is actually taking the sensitive data out from my organization, right? So these are the technology that we'll be able to implement to help our customers to solve all these access problems, all right? And including provide them a full audit trail as well, okay? Where do they access? Who is this person? What do they do? Everything will be in the full audit trails, okay? So as the user move along, let's say, for example, you're in year 1, now you're actually, next year, you are going to year 2, right? So your access for the old access, for example, like module A, B, C, right? The access that you have eventually will get automatically being remediated and removed accordingly and grant you the new access, subsequent access. This can be done all in an automated way, right? And the last part, which is the most organizations are concerned about, is that, for example, in your case, MCKL, when you are actually graduated from MCKL, so your access for the past 3 years supposed to be removed immediately, right? So this also can be achieved through our own system, right? Can be disabled straight away, right away on the last day. Okay. So we also provide you to facility for you to request for access to file and folder. Let's say you got some projects that you want to come in, and you can actually use the workflow here to request for it. And once it's granted, you can basically log in straight away and access to the file and folders, right? So throughout this whole process, we also have a continuous, like a checker maker process to continuously review the access to ensure that appropriate access that is granted to the necessary users whenever it's needed. All right. So this, what I'm showing you is the whole journeys that typically a corporate that will be going through, especially when you have thousands of users. Imagine you have thousands of users that you're managing it. You can't afford to actually build a teams of 10 people or 20 people sitting down there and doing all this manual identity administrations, and which is also prone to a lot of human errors. All right. Okay, let me just share with you some of the tips to build your cybersecurity career. If some of you here are interested to be venture into cybersecurity, because I know that it's not easy for the someone to basically see the future of cybersecurity. All right. So this is part of it. Like I would like to share with you. Right now, how many of you that aware and have seen or have know of about this 7 colors view of cybersecurity? Okay, so typically that you can see that across the organization, you often will hear about these 3 roles: the yellow team, the blue team, and the red team. All right, the red team is typically like attackers. This team, there's only have one mindset, is to attack you, trying to break your system. Okay, so they are actually conducting offensive security, right? So if you want to relate to the real working world, that will be a pen tester, penetration testing. All right. So this group of people is actually under red team, right? They are responsible to basically try to break the system and find the loopholes of the system, right? While comparing to blue team, these are typically a defensive. They're playing a defensive game, right? They try to protect, detect, and try to defend the whole system. All right. So therefore, you see that there's always a conflict of interest between blue team and red team. They're always not good to each other, right? Because this guy is trying to break and this guy is trying to defend. All right. Now, therefore, you will see that okay, let me talk about yellow team. Yellow team is typically applications builders. They are builders, right? They build the system. So typically, there could be a programmer, all right? So now you can see if you are typically just a programmer, right, you will see that the gap that the build is that as a programmer, I want to quickly launch to the market. So I may lack of security cautious that what would be the best practice when it comes to security. Therefore, a lot of organizations that actually may form a green team here. Okay, a green team that's able to neutralize between the yellow team and the blue team, right? Which is putting a security as part of the design. So after the, you wouldn't end up that you have cases like hard-coded password, that you try to hard-code the password inside your application or program. That wouldn't happen if you have putting a security as part of the design, right? Similarly, if you look at the red team and yellow team, there's always a gap in between these two teams. All right, that's where orange team will come in to facilitate the training or the education or the cybersecurity awareness across the whole organizations. All right. Now, ultimately, you will see that if you are keep on evolving on the cybersecurity circle, you may end up with a white team that's all-rounded. It's more come from a management angles to look at. You will be able to analyze the security incidents, that is being reported and applying the right compliance standard on it. And more importantly, it's about incident response, knowing how to basically respond to each of the incident that is basically reported. Okay, so just take a quick note on these 7 colors of cybersecurity. Okay, tips number 1, if you ask me about why cybersecurity, right? So I would rather ask yourself, if you are serious to basically pick up and venture into cybersecurity, you must really find out what is a why factor. Okay, because different people will have different why factor. Some people would like to follow the trend. It's like, hey, Jason, I think cybersecurity is like a very training topic. Everyone is talking about it. It looks like very advanced kind of things, right? And therefore, I wanted to actually throw myself into a cybersecurity field. Okay, this could be one of the factors. Yeah, you may be surprised. And some people would think that, hey, I like to actually, hack a system. I like to hack system. I was wondering how people can hack a system. Some people will come from curiosity, right? Like myself, I actually come from curiosity. When I actually venture into cybersecurity, the first thing that I think of is that how can you actually exploit a system and manipulate the access that you're given, and you can still accessing the sensitive data without leaving any footprint. And how can organization perspective be able to to detect and catch this group of people? Okay, this is always in my curiosity. Therefore, it actually brings me to the cybersecurity field. All right. So think about why factor is because at the end of the day, this is the one that will hold you and drive you the most along your career, right? Especially when anytime you were thinking about giving up, you have tried so hard, you can't reach the objective that you wanted to, you can't actually meet the goal that you're setting, then you are thinking of quitting the time. Ask yourself, what is your why factors? Why do you started originally, right? That will be the driver that will be able to support you and motivate you every single day, because love what you do and do what you love, right? That is a saying. All right. Second, you must really set a goals, what you would like to achieve, right? You can't blindly just cheat yourself into cybersecurity without knowing what do you want, right? It's like a law of attraction. I'm sure many of you have gone through buying something new, right? Let's say, for example, buying a car. So today, if you decided to buy a Toyota Vios, for example, right? You would think that suddenly you see on the road, there are so many Toyota Vios on the road. The moment that you make up your mind, you want to buy Toyota Vios, right? How could that happen? This is all about law of attraction, because that actually is like plugged into your mindset so hard, and every day you're thinking about it. So similar to, is it true? Suddenly in the market, there's a lot of people driving Toyota Vios. No, all this while has been like that. It's just that it doesn't come to your notice, right? So same thing for cybersecurity. The moment that you decided you want to go red team, you want to become a pen tester, right? Today, then you will suddenly think that, hey, your surrounding, you seems like having friends that also like to do pen tests, right? It's a little mindset and the actions that actually push you towards that direction. You start to do a lot of researching in pen tests. How can I be a good pen tester? Where do I start? Things like that, right? And all these things will suddenly pop up into your dictionary, into a day-to-day engagement, everything, all the pictures will start to come up. And how committed are you to do it consistently? Okay, I have seen so many people say that I want to be in the cybersecurity field, for the next 5 years, right? And when we see that, the energy is relatively tremendously going down as it go along, right? And then it is easily just give up. Pen test is too hard for me to continue. It's just too hard, and you are thinking about quitting already. Yeah. So it's all about commitment. Once you set your goals, right? How much that you would like to commit and to do it consistently? That will bring you to the next destination. Okay. Second, if you want to be good in cybersecurity, you can't get away from brushing up your technical skill. Trust me. All right. The first thing that you need to do, set up your own lab. Okay. So set up your own lab means you need to set up a virtual environment, whether it's using a VMware or VirtualBox. Right. I have been interviewed a lot of fresh graduate or even interns, right? That's quite surprised to me that there are quite a lot of students out there don't even know what is VM. Okay, no surprise, no joke. So please, if you are really serious about setting up, going up with your cybersecurity career, technical skill set is something that you need to brush on to. So start setting up your own lab. And these are the technology components that you must know of, and you must have a hand touch with it, practical experience. All right. People will ask you what is Windows Server is all about. Linux server, Active Directory, database, SQL database. Do you know how to write an SQL query, DNS firewall, email server, or even scripting or programming? Right. These are things that you can't get rid of. Okay. And lastly, continue to practice make perfect. So you need to continue to do a lot of research, practice it on your own lab, test it out. And these are the things that even in the actual corporate world, when you step out to work, right, that a lot of things that you're not just implementing straight away to your customer environment, but you have to really test in your own sandbox. First, making sure that it works, confident enough, then you only apply the same steps in the customer environment. Okay. Tips number 3. Now, I'm sure that a lot of you may be thinking that, is certification important in cybersecurity? My answer to it is yes, it is really important, but it's not everything. Okay, certification is not about everything. So you don't have a mindset of, when I certify as a this ISC Square 2, right? CISA, for example, when I certify with CISA, and suddenly I can be very good in doing cybersecurity audit over the night. No, it won't happen in that way. All this comes from a real life experience. All right. The more practical experience, continue to do more projects. That is the experience that matters the most. Okay. Certification is just a paper for you to basically, tell someone that you are officially certified, but it doesn't miss anything in the actual corporate world. Okay. So these are the example and very famous certification that we would like to enroll on. And CISSP, this is the quite an advanced one that before you hit to CISSP, maybe you can go with some other certification. For example, a CEH that is offered by EC Council, pretty much good if you would like to start your pen test journey. All right. And there's some very good courses come from ISACA as well, CISM, CICSA, and Secret Series. It's more on the risk management part. So these are the quite popular courses that you can actually enroll. Okay, if you would like to basically find a platform that for you to pick up a cybersecurity courses, Cybersecurity, I would strongly recommend go and Google this up, Cybersecurity. That will have a lot of courses that be available as a free or is a paid version. That I would strongly recommend. They have a very wonderful content on it, and you can also visiting Udemy and Coursera as well. Okay. Okay. The next tip that I want to share is about finding the right platform for you to basically brushing up a skill along your career path. This is very important. And take my words, learning is always a self-obligation. I have seen the society is so sick today that I'm putting the learning experience into others people's responsibility. Today, if I join an organization, I know nothing. Even after 6 months or 1 year, I've been trying out to learn, but I'm not able to pick it up, right? And I start to blame around. I say that my manager is not good, my customer is not good, my colleagues are being very selfish, don't want to teach you, So you start to blame around and everyone's problem, and it's not your own problem, all right? I want to give you a very good advice is that learning is always your self-obligation. No one has obligation to teach you, okay? You need to remember this part. Don't follow the 80% of the people go and complain just like others, right? So check yourself, okay? Be it the 20% of people, always check yourself, understand where's the gap and learn from there, all right? Keep the attitude right, and you'll be able to learn it very fast, okay? And also, if you are venturing into cybersecurity, you can't work alone. Don't isolate yourself. You must be networking with others on the same interest, such as joining the cybersecurity community and attending the events, the cybersecurity event, get to know more people, speak with them, and understand from different dimensions, different aspects. As I mentioned, cybersecurity landscape is too big. It's too big enough. I can typically name it 20 domains for you, right? It's too big. So you need to keep on, communicating with people so that you will keep yourself abreast of the technology ahead. Okay, next, this is a real experience. When you step out to work, right, you have two environments typically that you can pick to choose. Which one that you like to work with? A vendor life or an end customers? What does it mean? Okay, a vendor, it means that people like us, that we actually go out there to understand what is our customer problem is about, and propose them the right solution, and including giving them the consultation and advisory. What will be the best practice of implementing this? And how do I help you to implement this solution? What are the business benefits that you'll be getting, all right? So being vendors, one of the key advantages is that you are horizontally and vertically expanding your knowledge into a lot of dimensions. Every single day, you may be meeting with different kinds of customers that's giving you different kinds of problems waiting you to solve, right? That's the interesting part about vendor life, right? Flexible, dynamic, fast-moving kind of environment, all right? Kind of a pace. While comparing to end customers, typically things like a big organization, Shell, Maxis, this kind of Maybank, these are the end customers, right? When you join your end customers, a lot of things that there are a lot of processes and SOP that you are able to basically follow and adopt to it, right? That means the process are there. You just have to follow, all right? And in this nature of working environment, typically you are very focusing in doing a specific things that you are asked to do. So, for example, if you are only responsible to do pen test, right, then that will be the scope of work that you only allowed to do pen test. So other than that, other project initiative, you may not be able to get involved, right? These are the typical end customers experience. So I've been through the experience working in two different kinds of environment. I would say that when you are young enough, try to join a vendor-based company so that you can actually equip your knowledge faster, expedite your entire experience in terms of learning, all right? No, the last thing that I want to share is about in terms of career growth in cybersecurity, what you can expect on is you need to look at two perspectives, horizontally or vertically, right? What does it mean here? Horizontal, still remember when I told you guys, right? Cybersecurity domain is so big, right? You have pen test, you have security analysts monitoring, you have IAM, you have DLPs, you have EDR. There's a lot of technologies that are in place. So it's about learning things horizontally, right? Horizontally, right? You learn this, right? Horizontally, versus that you are going vertical. For example, in our today's business, we are focusing in identity security. Every single person in my team right now is focusing in identity security. We are going vertically deep enough, right? Focusing on our own domains and trying to, it's like a specialist, right? When you have an eye problem, you want to go and see your eye specialist, right? So we are actually in the stage of growing vertically at this junction, right? Even say so vertically, right? There are dimension things that you will be able to achieve. For example, you could be started off with a very technical engineer, that kind of role, and subsequently growing out to a consulting role that you are able to basically provide a solution and give a best practice advices to the customers. So you actually grown up one more level up. You are not just about following the engineering process to get things up, but you're also able to do the advisory ultimately. All right. So these are the two perspective that you could actually think of when it comes to cybersecurity. There's so much thing that you can basically expand your career on when you started your cybersecurity journey. Okay, that's all I want to share. Thank you very much. Su Jane, over to you.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. Jason. That was very interesting and very insightful. Thank you so much for sharing from your experience. I think just now my audio was not working very well. So just in case you didn't hear me, this is Mr. Jason. This is Mr. Jason. He has 15 years of experience in the IT industry, specifically in identity security. He is the founder and CEO of Cydentiq in Bahrain, and he's very experienced in this field. He has been interviewed by a magazine before, CISO Mag. He has spoken at universities before, and most of all, he is very experienced and worked as he said, a vendor as well as an end customer before and seen different things in the industry. Now, before we pass the time over to Mr. Jason for a session of Q&A, again, just a reminder, if you have any questions, keep them coming. I see one in the chat. Please keep them coming. I know you guys, some of you guys here, I recognize some names. Please make full use of our time here, okay? It's quite rare to have Mr. Jason here. Okay, anyways, just a little introduction for myself as well. I am the Career Services Coordinator at Methodist College Kuala Lumpur. I'm also an A-level biology lecturer. And besides bio lecturing, I actually partners and make sure students have internship opportunities, specifically students from our diploma program. So just a little presentation for me, just FYI. Now, let me share screen for a moment. MCKL actually has a long history in KL. It was actually started in 1929, and in 1984, it was renamed as Methodist College Kuala Lumpur. It used to be an afternoon school, it became a high school, and now it's a college. We are mostly known for A-levels and Western Australian Certificate of Education, or AUSMET, and later on also launched Diploma in DECE, which is Diploma in Early Childhood Education. Now, along the way, we have launched other programs like ADTP, social work. We are the only college in Malaysia that offers diploma in social work. And yeah, but the most recent development is that we started offering computer science, IT, e-commerce and digital business, digital marketing, and finance technology. And this is because our aim, our view for this future is really future education. This is why we're having this talk right now. We want to nurture individuals who can work in complex groups, work across disciplines such as cybersecurity, IT, and adapt to new jobs of the future. So not just any job, but jobs that cater to the industry needs. Now, one of the MCKL key trusts is also lifelong learning. As you can, I think you have heard this term, Industry 4.0. Have you heard this? Well, we are heading towards Industry Revolution 4.0 now. And it's not just about that degree. Again, certification is important, as Mr. Jason said, but it is not everything, right? We are looking for individuals who are go-getters, who have every opportunity to learn and make learning and adapting a lifelong thing. Now, just a little more information on our diploma program, since we are talking about cybersecurity today, right? We have diploma in computer science. These are our partner universities. Obviously, we are a college, so we can only offer up to a diploma level, maybe a degree in the future. But for now, just a diploma level. We don't expect you to stop there. After 2.5 years of diploma at MCKL, you can actually transfer to one of our partner universities to do your bachelor's. Okay, we have University of South Australia and Deakin University in Australia. Sheffield Hallam and Teesside University are two universities that we partner with, and they are in the UK. Now, in general, we try and think of the diploma in computer science or IT as a basic foundation, and then you can actually choose to specialize in one of these bachelors when you pursue a degree in our partner university. One of it includes cybersecurity and networks in Teesside University, if there's something you're interested in. Now, a computer science degree, a computer science diploma is data science focused, by the way, and these are the main topics that we do teach in diploma. This includes data science, which is our main focus, data mining, data processing, machine learning, cloud computing, etc. For our diploma in IT is actually Internet of Things focused. Cybersecurity is a component here, but I think Internet of Things and information technology actually deals with more of the hardware and software of things, not just the software. So also the hardware. So you learn things like data analytics, you learn things like sensors and devices, you learn things like communication and networking, both software and hardware components, and also some programming in C and Python. Okay, again, diploma is just a stepping stone, right? You can continue to your degree in the partner universities stated after. Now, just a little more about these diplomas. I think one thing that makes diploma in MCKL so attractive and so different is that we have a 12-week industry training. Now, certification again is important and formal education is needed, but I think what would make you stand out to employers in the future is really some hands-on experience with the real industries and solving real problems, right? So these are just some of our industry partners we have so far. Usually after 2 years of a diploma, the last 12 weeks of your diploma would be this industry training, where you go and spend almost 3 months there, you train and actually see what they do and have a hands-on experience. So yes, that's our 12-week industry training. Now, what makes MCKL special also is that we have, for computer science anyway, an integrated certification. So for example, SAS, this is an integrated certification, meaning that when you finish your diploma in computer science in Methodist Kuala Lumpur, you will not only get a cert for your diploma, but also a SAS cert in academic specialization, data science, and machine learning. Now, other than that, you actually also can choose to obtain more certifications and build a portfolio, like with the Amazon something Academy. And I'm not the professional here, but it's related to cloud computing, and you actually graduate with this cert here as a certified cloud practitioner. Now, other than that, we also have ICDL. And by the way, WAS Academy certs and ICDL certs are available to anyone as short courses as well, just FYI. So you can take some even now as you're studying your A-levels or SMET or even your SPM. This is internationally recognized, and it's just useful for you to have some tools in the pocket. And number 4 is your own final capstone project. In your final year in your diploma, this is a project that is part of the final year. You will be working to do some research and hopefully this will give you a head start in terms of your research experience, which is also required in the industry. Now, actually, other than this stuff, your lecturers are actually working with our industry partners to set up assignments that are mini projects. So assignments that are related to real life issues and problems in real life industries. So that is quite exciting as well. That's something to look forward. If you're interested to know more about this, you can definitely call or email admission@mckl.edu. And they have course counselors that will talk you through the process and the right pathway. So yeah, that is all that's everything from me. If you have questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat or in the Q&A section, and we'll answer them. Now, okay, we are finally coming to the end of the session. It is finally time for Q&A. I think we have one that has been waiting forever in the chat. If Calvin Neo is still there, that would be great. I think he asked, would you recommend Kali Linux as a good starting point? If no, then where would you recommend to start this learning journey? Mr. Jason,
Okay, all right. Hi, Kevin. I hope that you are still on the line with us, right? Now, when you ask this question, I guess that you maybe making up your mind that to go with a pen test. So you want to be a red teamer. If yes, if your answer is yes, right, then Kali Linux is definitely a good platform for you to basically, because it's open source that comes with no cost that allows you to actually download, and Kali Linux comes with a very enriched community when it comes to support, where we have issues that is on this particular solution, this particular platform that you would like to seek for help or log a support case, right? You can basically just go straight to the community that you can get a lot of answers there, right? So if you ask me the question, is Kali Linux is meant for a beginner platform for you guys if you would like to do the penetration testing, okay, then this is strongly recommended. Okay, if it's not, if your direction is not towards that, then keep looking what would be your interest in cybersecurity. Like I mentioned, cybersecurity domain is so big, and a lot of fresh graduate, they would like to, instead of going to the red team, they like to go to the blue team, the other way around, doing defending. Okay, so this group of people that typically need to go through the shift. Most likely you will need to go to work in a working shift, right? It's like you're in the monitoring, 24/7 monitoring, right? Detecting whether there's any security incident that happened. You need to come in to give the level 1 investigation. How could this incident that could happen, and start to trace a lot of things from there. So it's pretty much depends which route you would like to take on. That will determine what will be, like I say, like the platform that you choose, the courses that you would like to enroll, that will come along the way. Yeah. And I think Kelvin also asked another question, right? Cookies. So are you asking what is this cookies is about? If there's a question that how I can respond to this is that cookies is typically just a piece of files that maybe contain information such as the username and password. And why is cookies is being popular use is that it has its advantage of most people would like to maintain the better user experience. It's like, but once I logging in one time, right, that I will be able to continue to leverage on the username password. You don't keep on prompting me username and password, right? That could be very annoying. So a lot of people that would basically using cookies to actually cache the username password that you have, create a persistent section towards your web application, so it does not keep on prompting you. All right, it's just like Facebook, right? It doesn't keep prompting you. So if you are actually checking the box of stay sign on, that's you are using the Facebook features, but you're using the web browser feature that you can also accept the cookies for certain website. Okay, I hope I answer your questions. If not, that you can continue to ask the questions. There is also a question come from Sherry. I see in the chat box. Do you want to go through that? Su Jane, do we still have time?
Sherry was actually answering one of your questions in the beginning of the presentation, as well as Calvin. Calvin does have another question right at the end. He asked, how do private and public keys work?
So, private and public keys works in the way that you just imagine I'm A and you are B. All right. Before we establish a connection, we need to handshake each other. All right. We need to handshake each other to make sure that we know each other before I allow you to come into my or the other way around, that you allow me to connect to you. It's like a Bluetooth, right? So this is the key concept that essentially that will be the one that is sending the signal to the other parties will need to accept my connection. Handshake the first time, then we become a trusted connection. The next time when I try to initiate to you, that I'll be using a token base, right? A token that's only known between me and you. No one else will know. Okay, that work in that way. And let me have to go back to Sherry's question. That's right at the beginning. Okay.
Yes, she asked about Bastion host.
Bastion host. Okay.
I'm not sure what that is.
So I'm not sure whether you're asking what is Bastion host is about, or you're asking me whether my solution is using Bastion host. Okay. Now, Bastion host, to my knowledge, this is like a proxy server, right? It's like a proxy server. Typically, in the corporate world, how they do is that they will set up a proxy server. Especially this proxy server will use to bridge the connection between internal and external. Remember, I showed you the diagram just now, right? Internal and external. So before you expose things to external internet, right? You want to make your application that hosted internally, which is accessible over the internet, that you will need to set up a proxy server. And this proxy server is usually hardened with a lot of security policy that's in place. All right. So and then this Bastion host were used to basically control and do the right routing between the internal network across to the external network, right? And typically, Bastion host is placed at the DMZ network. So this is how it works. But if you are referring to my solution, are we using Bastion host? Yes. We remember just now I mentioned that that we are able to do recording. We are able to do the section recording for all the activities that you are carrying out when you are accessing the certain sensitive data. So this is the concept that we are applying. So we are kind of like forced, instead of you coming to my network where you can straight away RDP or SSH logging into the server directly, we force you to come into my jump host, or you call Bastion host, right? It's a middle person, right? And then do a proper authentication before I allow you to connect to the authorized application. So this is the concept that we're applying as well in our solution. Okay, I hope I answered your question.
Calvin, you asked a follow-up question. What would be the difference between a Bastion host and a honeypot?
It's quite similar to me. It's a lot of jargon. There's a lot of jargon that's used in the market, sometimes referring to the same thing. Yeah, because I can limit Bastion host to me. It's like a proxy server. Some people call it gateway. Well, up to you. As long as we know what's the definition. Even when you're referring to the solution that I talked about just now, privilege access management, there's a lot of jargon that's being used in the market. Some people call it PIM, privilege identity management. Some people call it PAM, the same word, but it carries out privilege account management, privilege user management. It's all referring to the same thing. Yeah. So once you step on into this journey, you will start to see that there are a lot of jargon being used repeatedly, but some of it could be the same.
I see. All right, thank you for clearing that up, Mr. Jason.
Yep.
One last question, also from our friend Calvin here. He asked about the recent Log4j vulnerability and how would you recommend to patch it?
Okay, Log4j incident is not to anyone. In fact, it created a global warning sign to everyone. Just before that, we wanted to celebrate our Christmas, that this was being, I still have Because all my customers are come from banking, a lot are from banking, they start to be very panicked and ask around whether your applications is using the Apache Tomcat, because these are the vulnerabilities that reported in the Apache certain version, right? So definitely it required to be patched for sure. And if organizations are adopting zero trust model, that you will likely to quarantine a lot of attacks from external. Okay, what do we mean by zero trust? Okay, zero trust concept, it means never trust, always validate. That goes back to our principle of identity access management. We never trust, all right? We will always validate your identity. We are always verifying you are the actual person that's coming to your network before allowing you to carry out your activities. So if organization that has already been adopted with zero trust model, that you will likely to mitigate the risk of this. But having said so, that still require you to patch immediately because I can tell you that Tomcat is widely used across applications. If you ask me, a lot of business applications there are actually leveraging on Tomcat. Okay, so and patching is the most crucial one that you need to do.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jason.
No worries,
for
Kelvin.
answering
Yep.
the question. Well, I think you guys know more than I do, honestly. I'm a bit lost with the jargon. I think, like Mr. Jason said, I will need to do more research. What would your final outcome maybe to the students here who are very interested in cybersecurity? Final.
Sorry, what's your question? Hello. It was a bit laggy just now. Su Jane, do you mind to repeat your question?
Sorry, I think Mr. Jason, you're breaking up. Yeah. What would your final advice be for the students here? Any final advice?
Okay. Look, if you are really serious about embarking on be it IT or cybersecurity, want you guys to really have a deep thoughts about your why. I always start with why and how. There's only two dimensions I'm measuring at each point of my career that I will, be it at any point of time along your career, whether it's initial stage or whether it's in the middle, I always ask why and how. Because once you are clear about your why, which is your passion, what do you want, right? It's about what you want. It's not about what you can or cannot, because can or cannot is something that you will find solution out of it. As long as you are clear your desire, what do you want to be. So that is go back to your why factor, right? So my advice is always be serious, have a deep thoughts about what you really want to achieve, what you want to be. Once you find out your why already, then go all the way. Go all the way, put a lot of focus and efforts, go all the way. You will be seeing result. And I always talk to a lot of all this new young generation that be passionate about success, because it will not come overnight. All right, you got to be passionate on it, and there's no shortcut to every single success path. You may be admiring a lot of people's, wow, how can these people that be so successful in his life, and you know that how much struggling that this person has been through in their past. Yeah, so find out your why, and then your how will come along. All right, so after this, if you would like to get more advice, because we also I'm happy to do mentoring to the people around me, especially when I like to communicate with people that having a very strong mindset of what they want. Right, so you can continue to reach out to me in person. All right, I will hope to catch up with you guys soon, and I wish you all the best in pursuing your career soon. All right.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jason. So 2 words, passion and patience. Okay, patience, very needed, not just passion, guys. So thank you so much again, Mr. Jason. I think that's all for today. There is a feedback form in the chat if you scroll up a little bit. So let us know what you think. You can also email admission@mckl.edu.my and also follow us on our social media platforms, that is College KL. And yeah, to just keep in touch and to tune in to more talks coming up. Our next one, by the way, is on 26th of February, 2 to 3 p.m. And it's about speech language pathology, very different from information technology. But if you're interested in that, please feel free to tune in to our Facebook or Insta and wait and stay tuned for our poster. But thank you again, Mr. Jason. It's a pleasure to have you. I learned a lot today, really a lot. So appreciative of your presence here. Thank you so much again. Thank you for the background team as well. See you guys next time. Stay safe, guys.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Stay safe.